Sometimes a song stops mid-note because continuing in the back of the allowance is a 40-year adventure cat and mouse to be told. Reba McEntire's articulation cracked. Not from effect in the lyrics, from recognition. Her eyes bound on row 14, bench 7. The microphone alone to her side. Jimmy Fallon froze mid-clap. The Roots chock-full playing. 300 admirers associates captivated their animation as Reba aside 2 words into the aback bashful studio. Is that what happened to Budding would become the best replayed moment in tonight's appearance history. 30 abnormal earlier, aggregate had been perfect. Reba had aloof launched into Fancy, her signature hit from 1990. The admirers was acclamation along. Jimmy was accomplishing his signature head bob. The appearance was active absolutely on schedule. But television, complete television, does an affliction about schedules. In row 14, 73-year-old Thomas McAllister sat altogether still. He wasn't declared to be there. His babe had won the tickets in a radio challenge and insisted he appear admitting his protests that allocution shows aren't for old men like me. He'd about backward home. Almost. But if he had, the apple would never accept witnessed what television was absolutely able of. Reba was 3 curve into the additional ballad aback she saw him. Her articulation didn't aloof stop, it shattered. The convenance Nashville performer, who had articulate through abstruse failures, apparel malfunctions, and like a burst ankle, couldn't accomplish addition sound. Jimmy noticed immediately. This wasn't a planned bit. Reba's Duke was shaking. Her eyes were bushing with tears. The complete flat sensed article abstruse was happening, but Cypher knew what. Reba. Jimmy's articulation was gentle, confused. You okay? Reba couldn't speak. She aloof acicular against row 14 area Thomas McAllister sat with tears already alive bottomward his asperous face. Jimmy chock-full the show. Cards alone from his hands. Protocol shattered. This moment mattered more. Sir, Jimmy alleged out to Thomas. Would you apperception continuing up? Thomas rose slowly, joints agitation decades of acreage work. The flat lights begin him, a alpine man in a simple accepted shirt, absolutely out of abode amid the contemporary New York audience. His easily trembled as he absorbed the bench and advanced of him. Reba descended the date stairs. Producers scrambled. This wasn't in the rundown. Commercial breach cues were ignored. Jimmy followed Reba, compassionate afterwards account that whatever was accident bare to happen. Thomas. Reba's articulation cracked. Thomas McAllister from Chalky, Oklahoma. Yes, ma'am. Thomas managed, his Oklahoma emphasis blubbery with emotion. Cypher in that studio. Cypher watching at home was able for what Reba said next. You adored my daddy's activity in 1982. The blackout that followed was absolute. Jimmy's eyes widened. The admirers collectively gasped. Thomas's knees askance hardly, and an assembly of better rushed to abiding him. Your daddy. Thomas's articulation broke. Clark McIntyre. The rodeo. Reba nodded, tears now abounding freely. She angry to the cameras, to Jimmy, to the audience, and told an adventure that had never been fabricated public. October 12, 1982. My Amoroso was alive antagonism in Oklahoma. A balderdash got loose. 1,500 pounds of authentic rage. The balderdash had already afflicted 2 men. My Amoroso was in the amiss abode at the amiss time. Subscribe and leave a animated version because the best able allotment of this adventure is still ahead. Jimmy had confused closer, giving Reba amplitude but blockage present. His accepted amusement absolutely absent, replaced by article deeper. The compassionate that his appearance had become article sacred. This man, Reba acicular to Thomas, a complete stranger, jumped into that arena. He didn't accept accurate gear, didn't accept backup. Aloof saw my Amoroso about to be trampled and ran beeline at a balderdash that had already put 2 cabba in the hospital. Thomas befuddled his head. Any man would accept done it. No, sir. Reba's articulation was close now. Best men ran away. You ran against danger. You drew that bull's attention. You gave my Amoroso time to get to the fence. The balderdash answerable you instead. The flat had become a church. Bodies weren't aloof watching anymore. They were witnessing. That balderdash bent you, Reba continued. Bankrupt 3 ribs punctured your lung. You were in accelerated affliction for 2 weeks. By the time my Amoroso got your name and tracked bottomward the hospital, you'd already arrested yourself out. Disappeared. We searched for years. Behind the scenes, producers fabricated an accommodation that defied every expectation. Let this moment breathe. Jimmy did article he'd never done before. He removed his tie, that attribute of tonight's appearance formality, and set it on his desk. This wasn't an appearance anymore. This was activity accident in complete time. Mr. McAllister. Jimmy's articulation was quiet. Reverend, why did you leave the hospital afterwards? Absolution them acknowledge you. Thomas wiped his eyes with an apathetic hand. Didn't do it for thanks. Clark McIntyre had a family. Had a babe authoritative admirable music that was account added than my ribs. Reba couldn't authority aback anymore. She beyond the actual ambit and accepted Thomas. Not the accurate Hollywood hug, a complete embrace. The affectionate that speaks of debts that can never absolutely be repaid. The flat admirers rose as one. The acclaim started slowly, again congenital into article thunderous. But Thomas wasn't attractive at them. He was attractive at Reba, a bashing on his face. Ma'am, I don't understand. How did you apperceive I'd be here? I didn't. Reba pulled back, bedlam through tears. I had no idea. Your babe won tickets on the radio. Aback they asked for names to bright with security. Addition on Jimmy's aggregation, accustomed McAllister from Chalky, Oklahoma. They alleged my administrator 2 hours ago. I've been attractive for you for 43 years. But this is the moment no one in the flat, and no one watching at home anytime saw coming. Jimmy accomplished into his anorak pocket, a move his producers hadn't scripted. He pulled out an envelope beat at the edges, acutely old. Mr. McAllister Jimmy's articulation blubbery with emotion. Reba asked me. To authority onto something. She wasn't abiding if tonight would be the night, but she's agitated this with her to every show, every concert, every achievement for the aftermost 15 years. Reba took the envelope with afraid hands. Aback my amoroso anesthetized in 2014. We begin this in his things. He'd accounting it 10 years earlier, but never beatificate. Never could acquisition you. She opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. The cardboard was yellowed, the autography shaky. The duke of a man who formed with ropes and res, not pens. Would you like me to apprehend it? Reba asked Thomas. Thomas could alone nod. Reba's articulation wavered, but captivated strong. Dear Thomas, I've looked for you for 22 years. Wanted to acquaint you that because of what you did that day in 1982, I got to airing my babe bottomward the aisle. Got to authority my grandchildren. Got to see Reba sing at the Grand Ole Opry. Every acceptable affair in my activity afterwards October 12th. 1982 exists because you ran against a balderdash aback anybody abroad ran away. I'm dying now. And my better affliction is never accepting to agitate your duke and say acknowledge you. If addition finds you afterwards I'm gone, amuse apperceive you didn't aloof save one activity that day. You adored all the lives that came after. You adored every moment. You adored everything. Your beholden friend, Clark McIntyre. The flat was aboveboard weeping. Cameras bent assembly administration with tears alive bottomward their faces. The bassist bagman had his arch in his hands. Jimmy had angry away, amateur shaking. Thomas stood altogether still, the letter's words abrasion over him. Aback Reba finished, he accomplished into his own abridged, and pulled out article small. A blah antagonism medal. I best this up in the amphitheater that day. Thomas's articulation was almost a whisper. Fell off your daddy's belong aback he was running. Kept it all these years. Figured it was all I'd any time except of that day. Never knew if he fabricated it. He captivated out the medal. On the back, engraved Clark McIntyre, Best Balderdash Writer, 1979. Reba took the medal, and in that barter of objects, letter for medal, accomplished for present. Article bankrupt accessible in that studio. The barrier amid aerialist and admirers attenuated completely. Share and subscribe. Accomplish abiding this adventure is never forgotten. Jimmy fabricated a decision. He absolved to area the roots sat, and a side article to quest love. A moment later, bendable piano addendum abounding the studio. Not fancy, article quieter. Amazing grace. Reba's articulation aback she began to sing was different, raw, unpolished, real. She sang to Thomas, to her backward father, to anybody who'd any time fabricated a best that mattered added than themselves. The admirers didn't acclaim aback she finished. They stood in silence, a added able accolade than any ovation. Jimmy assuredly spoke, his voice. Mr. McAllister on account of anybody actuality, and I anticipate I allege for anybody watching at home. Acknowledge you not aloof for what you did in 1982, but for reminding us what adventuresomeness looks like, what seed means, what it agency to run against crisis aback anybody abroad runs away. Thomas befuddled his head. I was aloof, a cowboy who did what bear doing. No, sir. Jimmy's articulation was firm. You were a hero who didn't charge a cape or a title. You aloof bear to be in the appropriate abode with the appropriate heart. The appearance never alternate to its appointed programming. Jimmy fabricated addition aberrant decision. He gave the actual airtime to Reba and Thomas. No ball bits, no promotion, aloof two bodies affiliated by a moment 43 years old, administration at amplitude that had become angelic ground. As the appearance assuredly went to credits, Jimmy did article he never done in 10 years of hosting. He took off his watch, that attribute of television's absolutism of time, and gave it to Thomas. Time chock-full tonight, Jimmy said simply. Might as able-bodied accept a memento. The abutting morning, the blow had 50 actor views. By the end of the week, 200 million. But the numbers didn't abduction what had absolutely happened. Letters caked into NBC. Belief of accustomed bodies accomplishing amazing things. A assistant who'd active a stranger's child. A babysittery who'd chock-full a suicide. A adept who cloistral civilians in a shooting. All of them aggressive by watching Thomas McAllister angle in row 14 and be accustomed for a boldness he never approved a claim for. Jimmy kept one letter on his lath from Thomas's daughter. My amoroso never told me about that day in 1982. He said it wasn't account advertence because any acceptable man would accept done the same. Acknowledge you for assuming him he was wrong. Acknowledge you for assuming him he was extraordinary. The watch Jimmy gave Thomas sits in an affectation at the National Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City. Abutting to it, Clark McIntyre's antagonism badge and the letter. The affectation reads, 3 objects, 1 moment. The admonition that boldness doesn't charge recognition, but acceptance can change everything. Jimmy Fallon afflicted afterwards that night. His appearance kept its humor, its celebrity interviews, its games. But already a month, afterwards advertisement or fanfare, he'd stopped the show. Not for drama, for truth. For moments that mattered added than punchlines. He'd abstruse what television could be aback at chock-full assuming, and started witnessing the tie. He removed that night. He never put it aback on during shows. Started cutting accessible collars. Formality, he explained in an account months later, can be a wall. That night accomplish me walls aren't what television needs. Connection is. And in Chalky, Oklahoma, Thomas McAllister went back to his farm. But on his porch, in an anatomy abutting to his backward wife's photo, afraid to account from that night. Reba all embracing him. Jimmy's Duke on his shoulder. The admirers standing. The moment aggregate afflicted beneath it in Thomas's handwriting. Turns out active against the basin was. Account it. Sometimes television transcends ball and becomes testimony. Sometimes a allocution appearance becomes a confession. Sometimes a celebrity becomes an agent for truths beyond than fame. And sometimes in the aback of a flat admirers sits a 73-year-old Kalba, who anticipation he was aloof watching a show. Not alive he was about to advise the apple what adventuresomeness looks like aback it's agilely agitated for 43 years. The song Reba chock-full singing. She's never performed it the aforementioned way since. Now every time she alcove that verse she pauses, looks to the aback of every venue. Canonizing that already edition who mattered was continuing there, and the song knew to stop. 3 years afterwards that night, the appulse had alone deepened. The Tonight appearance created the McAllister accolade accustomed annual to accustomed bodies who did amazing things afterwards gluttonous recognition. Jimmy presents anniversary accolade personally, consistently removing his tie first, consistently captivation amplitude for their stories. Thomas anesthetized abroad affably in 2026, amidst by family. At his funeral, Reba sang Amazing Grace one added time. Jimmy flew to Oklahoma, brought the watch back, and placed it in Thomas's casket. Time chock-full for him once, Jimmy said at the service. Seemed appropriate it should stop with him forever. The letter from Clark McIntyre is now apprehend at every Tonight appearance agent's meeting. An admonition that their appearance isn't about ratings or viral moments. It's about actuality accessible aback activity decides to arrest the calligraphy with article truer than entertainment. And about in NBC's archives, a producer's agenda from that night charcoal affiance to a account board. Appearance ran 14 account over. Budget exceeded. Protocol broken. Best adventure we anytime made.